My riding journey started when I was invited to my best friend's 13th birthday treat and went for a horse riding lesson at the local riding school. I was hooked. I went home and told my parents that I'd had so much fun and definitely wanted to go again, and thankfully they said yes. I started off by having weekly lessons in the same local riding school, where I met lots of lovely horses and people and made some great friends. Sadly, after 3 years of lessons, the riding school closed as the owner, who was also the main instructor, became ill and couldn't continue with lessons. The stables turned into a livery yard, and so I started looking for another riding school. I tried out a couple of local riding schools, including my current one, where I had a lovely lesson on a New Forest pony called Ted, and I really enjoyed it. I booked in for weekly lessons and started riding lots of the different riding school ponies they had, but Ted definitely stayed a firm favourite for many years to come. At my first riding school, I was taught a very old-fashioned way of riding, which included being taught to grip with my knees at all times while sitting in a kind of armchair position. I was taught to lean forwards when going downhill, to lean forwards but not actually get up out of the saddle when jumping, and that the classic pony club kick was the only way to get the horses moving forwards. There was also no such thing as a contact on the reins. The only contact you ever had with the horse's mouth was to pull on the reins to steer or stop. What you have to remember is that this was at a time before social media was a thing, and we weren't constantly flooded with photos and videos of other people riding, and so we really had nothing to compare our riding to, and just had to trust what we were being taught was correct. My poor instructors at the new riding school definitely had their work cut out when I arrived, and it took me literal years to unlearn and relearn how to ride properly, which I found really hard and still actually sometimes struggle with today. Fortunately, I've had some fantastic instructors over the years who have all helped me in many different ways. For the first few years at the new riding school, I rode all the classic riding school ponies like Ted, who all knew their jobs very well and weren't bothered about whatever kind of bizarre stuff the rider was getting up to up top. I would aim and kick, they would jump or occasionally stop, and we would try and try again until it wasn't a total disaster. We actually used to jump to the top of the blocks all the time at this stage, even though my riding was pretty atrocious, because my instructor at the time just wanted us all to have fun every week and wasn't that interested in trying to fix our positions or teach us on the flat. Looking back, this always makes me laugh because my instructor at the time was actually a dressage rider who produced the horse Land Vision, who eventually won badminton horse trials with Mark Todd years later. But maybe he was tired of teaching dressage all the time and just wanted to watch some jumping for a change. Being made to jump that big without much experience was actually quite good for me because it made me improve very quickly, and I learnt to just get on with it even if I was feeling a bit scared. Probably not the best way of learning, but it worked for me at the time. At this point, I also started going hacking on family holidays in places like Devon and Suffolk, and one of my first ever hacks was actually at Poplar Park in Suffolk, where I still occasionally go when I'm on holiday now. In this photo, at a different stables, I'm holding a lovely horse called Darcy, who I hacked a couple of times on holiday, and I think it's fair to say that he was a particularly gentle giant. Eventually, when my riding got better, I got to go out into the grass jumping paddock, which was very different to jumping in the arena, and I also had a go at cross country. These clips are from my second or third go at cross country, riding lovely Casey, who could be a brilliant confidence giver, but could also throw in a dirty stop if you weren't concentrating, so she was great for learning on. I continued to go cross country once a year for the next few years, and these days I go cross country schooling about twice a year. I'm still not very good at it, but it's one of my favourite things, and it's definitely something I'd like to do more of in the future. As my riding improved more as the years went on, I got to enjoy riding some of the newer ponies who came to the yard, like Jay, Sam, and then Maverick. Jay wasn't at the yard for very long, but I really loved her. She was so honest and gave me a lot of confidence jumping and put up with me so well while I learnt about things like distances and landing on the correct leg. Sam was another pony who was great for my riding, as he was quite young and I'd never really ridden something that wasn't a typical riding school pony before. I wish I was a better rider when I rode Sam, because he was such a special boy and I just didn't know how to ride him properly, because I still didn't have much clue about what I was actually looking for in terms of the horse's way of going. Maverick arrived not long after and was broken in by the riding school, and I started riding him soon after that, which was a fantastic experience because although he had been taught all the basics very well by the staff at the riding school, he was still very green, and I got to really experience how to start teaching and helping to improve a pony rather than them being the ones teaching me all the time. I also started riding slightly more whizzy horses like Zuby, which again gave me a new insight into riding something a bit more forward-going and also something taller, as the only times I had regularly ridden horses before was at my first riding school where I hadn't got a clue what I was doing. Eventually, ponies like Roger and then Casper arrived, who both presented their own challenges. And I definitely have to thank Roger in particular, because he is 100% the pony I've learnt the most from and also improved the most on over the last 6 or 7 years he's been at the riding school. I've continued to go hacking both at my yard and when on holiday over the years, and have enjoyed going from little trots through the forests to full-on mad muddy gallops, beach rides and riding abroad in Africa, which I'm so glad I felt confident enough to do, because it really was the experience of a lifetime. Finally, I started really understanding the mechanics of horse riding a bit better and how my position affects the horse, thanks to horses like Herbie, the schoolmaster, and also Roger, as his technique on the flat and jumping continued to improve. Now I'm really enjoying riding on the flat, jumping courses over poles and fillers, and going cross-country schooling with confidence, even on horses I find difficult like Magic. Because as well as the enjoyment I get just from spending time with the horses, I also really love the concept of improving a horse's way of going within a lesson and seeing lots of little things about them improve and knowing it was down to something I'd done, which I've only really started doing in the last 3 years or so. I know there are a lot of people watching this who are thinking, but you've been riding for 15 years, you should be a better rider than you are by now, or be jumping bigger. But just because I'm not jumping Grand Prix or winning the local event every weekend doesn't mean I haven't improved. Just looking back at these videos, I can personally see how much I've improved, as well as how far I've still got to go. And I'm proud of how far I've come, just from riding a horse once a week for an hour with no practice in between. I hope to continue lessons and riding in general for as long as I can, and perhaps one day get my own horse or pony, although that's not an option for me right now, and I'm still very happy with my weekly lessons and hacks. I owe a massive thank you to each of the 79 different horses and ponies I've been lucky enough to ride over the years. Yes, I am that sad and keep a list. And another thank you to the many instructors I've had, some of whom only taught me for one lesson and some who have taught me for years, but each one gave me new ideas and helped me improve in so many different ways. I know I'm very lucky to ride at such a great riding school with such a large variety of horses and ponies, and I am so glad that my best friend chose to go horse riding for her 13th birthday all those years ago. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll try to answer them, and I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more about my riding story.